Hey, what's going on? I hope that you're doing good. I wanted to show you this mixer that I got over the weekend. It is a Peavey monitor mixer. And so I guess what the deal is it's supposed to be for live applications and it's supposed to be for the musicians or the band. So you can send different mixes to the monitors that are on stage for the band. It's what's called a matrix mixer. I've never even heard of this before, but I think that there's a lot that you can do with it in an electronic setup. I got this thing for relatively cheap, and I think that this was a pretty good deal. Everything functions. When I got the mixer, it was quite dirty, so I had to pull everything off of it. So I pulled every one of the knobs off, and I put them in a soapy baking soda solution, and that took about a day for all of these to dry. And then I cleaned the board off. Everything works. I tested every single channel. Everything works. I'm missing this the stem on this pot here. When I first bought it, I was pretty disappointed because I thought that it was broken. I didn't realize this, and maybe this is just like common knowledge, but I didn't know that these inputs here are in out. So there's what's called like one click, right? That's in, and then that's output. So I had it pushed all the way in, and I'm like, none of it's working. And then I found the manual online for this, and then realized like, you have to do a single click. We've got 16 channels of input, and then you've got 6 output channels here. It is grabbing stereo out, and I'm just running this into the inputs of my interface. The first outputs from my interface are going to my monitors, but the second pair of outputs are running into these first 1 and 2 channels on this mixer here. If you look at this top row here, number 1 is this output, and you can determine how much you want to send in there. A very simple equalizer here. There's nothing really fancy. You just have highs, mids, and lows. I believe that the highs go up to 15 kilohertz. This is fixed at 800 hertz, and then I don't remember what the low is. If I want to have a stereo setup, this is my left channel. This is my right channel out here. I can have all of my instruments plugged in here, and then depending on what I'm working with, if I'm mixing some stuff or whatever, I can then run it back directly into my interface this way here, or I could send this out to some other gear. So in this case here, output 3 is going into the rat pedal, and then the output of the rat pedal is going into this channel here, channel number 5. I've got a drum rack playing, it's coming out of my interface, and it's going into these 2 channels here, and then I am sending these to the outputs via these 2 knobs, right? If I wanted to send something to this rat pedal here, I would go to channel 3, and I'll just go ahead and crank it a little bit. Pretty cool, right? Here's something else that I think is quite interesting. I'm just going to stop this drum loop for a moment. This is the channel that the rat is going into, right? It's coming out of here and then into here. But what I'm also able to do is I can then feed this signal here, which is going into the rat pedal, therefore creating a feedback loop, right? So take a listen here. I'm just going to crank this a little bit. I think that's pretty sick. And if I mess with the equalizer on here, I'm changing the pitch. So I'm assuming that this is sort of like an oscillator, like it's like self-oscillating. And then also, hold on. And then also the filter that is on the rat is also doing some pitch changing as well. Here's something else that I didn't share with you. On the output of each one of these, I have a high-pass filter that goes from 20 up to 500 hertz for each one of these. So this is kind of nice as well. Maybe I'll put the drum loop back on and we can get a chance to just hear what that sounds like. So here's what's going back into the interface, stereo. I'm just going to go ahead and turn these up. Nice, right? I don't know that it's not necessarily, it doesn't have any like great character in the way that like a high pass filter on a synth might, but I still think that there's definitely some use for it, right? Let's take a listen to the equalizer here on this as well. Can get going pretty good. Here's our mids. And then our highs. We're gonna go ahead and take the Rat and start feeding this dry drum sample into this. And then I'm gonna start feeding this loop back into itself. That's so sick to me. It's really simple. That's so cool. All right, so let me go ahead and stop this drum loop here. Oh, brother. Now, I don't think that I would use this in any sort of live format. It certainly would work for that. It's just not for me in that sort of scenario. I think that it lends itself to like some like synth jams and that kind of thing. You've got the faders, you can bring things in and out. You can, I think you could build on this. But what I'm really interested in is doing feedback loops and that sort of thing, and then sampling that stuff and then making tracks out of those. I think this is pretty neat, and I just wanted to share it with you. I'm gonna make some things with it, and then I'll probably sell it. If I do decide that I'm gonna sell it, I'll put a link for it in the description of this video. And if you have any questions about it, just hit me up, and have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.